Hello everyone, this is a tutorial on linear functions and their slopes. When you finish this tutorial, you will be able to determine the slope of a line, the equation of a line, and parallel and perpendicular lines. So let's go ahead and get started. We will first discuss the slope of a line and how to compute it, then we will model the equation of a line, and finally wrap up with a discussion on parallel and perpendicular lines. At the end of the tutorial, there will be some exercises you can try on your own. Let's define the slope first, then we will talk about the different types of slopes. The slope is a measure of how a straight line rises and falls. It is found by dividing the difference between two y values by two x values. There are three types of slopes. A zero slope, which is the graph of a horizontal line. This occurs when all y values are the same. We also have no slope, which is the graph of a vertical line. This occurs when all of the x values are the same. And then we have the slope of non-vertical lines, which is the graph of a line that has some degree of rise and fall. Let's compute the slope of the line containing the points -1, 5, and 6, -2. In the numerator, we are going to subtract 5 from -2 to get -7. Then, in the denominator, we are going to subtract -1 from 6 to get a +7 for a slope of -1. Similarly, in example 2, when we subtract 1 from 2 in the numerator, we get 1, and in the denominator, when we subtract 3 from 6, we get 3 for a slope of 1/3. Example 3 shows the calculation of no slope. In the no slope scenario, the x values are the same, which produces a 0 in the denominator when subtracted. Division by 0 is not allowed, hence no slope or an undefined slope. Example 4 illustrates a zero slope. In the zero slope scenario, the y values are the same. When subtracted, this produces a 0 in the numerator, which results in a zero slope. If we know the slope of a line and at least one point, we can model the equation of a line. Let's see how. With the point slope form, you will be given a point and a slope. Substitute these values into the general formula for an equation, y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1, and solve for y. Y becomes the equation of the line containing the given slope and point. With the slope-intercept form, you will be given the slope and the y-intercept. You will substitute these values into the slope-intercept equation. Doing so produces the equation of the line containing the given slope and y-intercept. To use the two-point form, you will be given 2 points, and the first thing you must do is calculate the slope. Then use the general formula for an equation, y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1, to model the equation of the line that contains those 2 points. In this example, we are given 1 point and the slope, so use the point slope form to determine the equation of the line. Start with the general formula for an equation, y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. Substitute the values for m, x1, and y1 to get y minus 1 equals 2/3 times x minus 5. The rest is algebra until we solve for y to get y equals 2/3 x minus 7/3. In example 2, we have the slope and a point, but the point is the y-intercept because the x value is 0. In this case, we will use the slope-intercept form. Substitute the values for m and b to get a final equation of y equals 1x plus 3. For example 3, we are not given the slope, but we are given 2 points. We can use these 2 points to calculate the slope, m equals 1. Then we use the general formula for an equation and substitute the values for m, y1, and x1 to get y minus a -1 equals 1 times x minus a -1. The rest is algebra until we solve for y equals 1x. Let's talk about how two lines are related to each other by their slopes. Two lines that are parallel have equal slopes, and two lines that are perpendicular to each other have slopes that are negative reciprocals of each other. Let's see what this means. Is the line that contains the points -2, 3, and 5, -2 perpendicular or parallel to the line that contains the points 2, 4, and -3, -3? Let's first calculate the slope for line 1, which is -5/7. Do the same for line 2 to get a slope of 7/5. Parallel lines have equal slopes. The slopes are not equal, so line 1 and line 2 are not parallel. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals of each other. When we multiply -5/7 by 7/5, we get -1, which indicates that line 1 and line 2 are perpendicular lines. Determine the equation of the line containing the point 2, 1 and parallel to the line 3x plus y equals 1. First, solve for y in the equation 3x plus y equals 1 to get y equals 1 minus 3x. The slope is the coefficient of x, which is -3. Now we have a slope and a point. Substitute these values into the general formula for an equation to produce a parallel line to 3x plus y equals 1. The line will be parallel because it will have the same slope as the equation, 3x plus y equals 1. So we get y minus 1 equals -3 times x minus 2. The rest is algebra until we solve for y and arrive at our final equation, y equals -3x plus 7. Determine the equation of the line containing the point 1, -4 and perpendicular to the line y equals 3/2 x minus 2. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. The slope of y equals 3/2 x minus 2 is the coefficient of the x variable, which is 3/2. Next, take the reciprocal of 3/2 and multiply by -1 to get -2/3, which will be the slope of the new line. Now we have a point, which is 1, -4, and a slope, which is -2/3. Substitute these values into the general formula for an equation and arrive at a final equation of y equals -2/3 x minus 10/3. It's your turn now. This is the section of the tutorial where you get to practice what you've learned. Don't hesitate to go back and review to help you along in this section. Complete problems 1 through 4 and post your answers in the comments section below so I can see how well you're doing. See you next time. Bye.